Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. This is your premier wrestling news program. Our top story today will be all about Cody Rhodes with plenty more news to come. You guys know me, I like to go through those headlines right at the beginning so that you know where we are starting from. We will be talking Cody Rhodes and the plans for him going forwards. We've got AJ Styles plans for him going forwards. The build towards LA Knight versus Logan Paul has now begun. Julia and when we're going to see her returning, well, I say returning, arriving in WWE, and two names on the main roster that have been mentioned as potential feuds for her. An up-down Alexa Bliss, as well as a little bit with Nikki Cross in there. What's going on with MJF and the quote-unquote report that's been making the rounds on Twitter, which is absolutely not true. A little bit on the new strategy that we're seeing from a good old-fashioned Fightful paywall. Yeah, they've changed the way they're doing things, and it's very interesting. It's very Stephanie McMahon, and I wanted to go into that. There's been a report that a match was cut because of Mercedes money. It wasn't. Let's talk about that a bit more. And a little bit on Tony Khan releasing numerous members of the AEW roster. So we are broken into sort of sections. We start with the WWE stuff and then we go into the AEW stuff. As usual in a show like this, what we'll be doing is essentially going through all of those headlines, going through each bit of news and going through the chat, so make sure to bring in your questions as you have them. We'll answer them as best we can. But while we do so, please do remember to hit the like button when you arrive. We've already got a point where we've got 42 people here, wonderful number, that might be the answer, and 20 likes, so let's keep that ball rolling. You do see typically twice as many viewers as you have likes, at least for the first 30 minutes, so it does make a massive difference to the growth of the channel. Our top story is Cody Rhodes. With Roman Reigns out of the picture and Cody Rhodes having won the undisputed, somewhat disputed, World Heavyweight, but not World Heavyweight, not Universal Championship, the WWE have made a pretty significant pivot. Now, they're trying to get rid of a pretty foul taste in people's mouths. Roman Reigns held that championship for a very long time, and the entire championship scene was taken up in one storyline, that being the Bloodline storyline. The Bloodline now has no Roman Reigns and also has no championship. And yet what I will say is that everyone's established enough that it's no less compelling. I respect that, and I enjoy the way they're doing it. That said, while there is a clear focus on Cody Rhodes, it is Solo Sikoa that is focusing on Cody, not Roman Reigns. And this, for me, is very telling. I do suspect SummerSlam may be Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes, and this would be a great opportunity for the return of Roman Reigns. At this point, still rumoured, nothing confirmed. Now, when it comes to what's actually going on with Cody, the foul taste that they're trying to get out of people's mouths is of an absentee champion, particularly a champion that was essentially written entirely by Vince McMahon and the Vince McMahon style. What they're going for with Cody is a good old-fashioned classic fighting champion, a la John Cena US champion, in fact, a la Seth Rollins. Triple H loves a fighting champion, and that's the intention with Cody Rhodes. The problem is, there's not many people at the top of SmackDown at the moment, so they're going to have to do a few repeats, hence why AJ Styles is back in the picture. While across the aisle, the focus is on very much building Damian Priest as quickly as they can before Drew McIntyre takes the gold away from him. Cody Rhodes is planned to have this championship for a very long time, so that he can go up against The Rock, and so that there will eventually be a Roman versus Cody free. From what I'm being told, Roman Reigns will not be returning to go straight after the championship. Roman Reigns has other business to attend to first, and as I've reported previously, Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa is heavy on the agenda right now. That leaves Cody with a wide open docket and a lot of options ahead of him. There are still plenty of big names on SmackDown, though a few of them do need a bit of rebuilding. What I will say is after the match with Logan Paul, there are plenty of people lower down the card that Cody can work with. Unfortunately, the most likely scenario is a 3-month feud with the Bloodline, and possibly even a tag match where Roman's on his side. It's a weird one. The plan for Cody, it's not as strong as it was. Triple H has a very clear overview of what he wants, but actually making it happen, he's clearly struggling in making it happen, and that has caused some difficulties. Cody knows that he's there to be the face. He is there to full-on replace Roman Reigns, and this does mean that Roman Reigns going forwards will have a very different role in the WWE than champion and top of the bloodline. As we know, he's coming back as a face on the same side as Cody, so he needs to stay as far away from Cody as possible so that, if anything, he doesn't step on Cody's momentum. That's our top story. I've got two quick bits of personal news before I get to the chat. Firstly, we've seen the return of a legend. Things are going really well for me at the moment. I finally got enough to fully pay for a house. And we've got the return of an absolute legend. Something which is vital to how the stream goes and really, I don't know, makes my heart beat, my life tick. That's right, Cherry Coke is back. I know for a lot of people, that means absolutely nothing, but for some of you, it's going to be the meme to end all memes. I don't know why, y'all are insane. Secondly, though, I need to explain this as carefully as possible. My hole was plugged up and it's browner than ever. So it's not quite finished yet, but if we look up, you'll see my hole's been plugged up. You'll also see my ring light, and I apologise for that. But the hole has been plugged up, which means I can now operate properly outside of my office. Or at least inside of my office. It's a good start, isn't it? Let's do that. Good news on all fronts. And there will be more good news. You have plenty of news to follow. Next up is talking AJ Styles, but let's catch up with the chat. Pardon me. Spiderboss says, do you know if there are any plans for Gigi Dolan in NXT? Yes, there are. However, NXT is in a very interesting place right now where they have a number of different people who are struggling to get to the top. And Shawn Michaels is trying to give as many people airtime as possible to see if they will sink or swim. Even those who sink on one opportunity will get plenty of other opportunities in the spotlight. There are plenty of people in NXT. In fact, there are way too many, but more on that later. When it comes to Gigi Dolan, she's had a couple of opportunities, but nothing really serious since Mandy Rose left the company. Personally, I think Gigi Dolan will get her moment, but the WWE right now haven't seen her swim enough compared to how often they've seen her sink. That's true for a lot of people at the moment. Spiderboss also says, Andrade recently expressed his frustration with his booking in WWE on social media. I think it was a mistake by Andrade to return to the WWE. I would say, once again, give it time. His storylines were only supposed to kick in at and after WrestleMania. They did manage to get him onto the WrestleMania card, so they're clearly trying to work in his favour. Sean says, can't believe we live in a world where Becky Lynch is no longer a WWE superstar. Yeah, but... we currently have 80 people watching, 36 likes, as I say, just over that 2 viewers per like ratio. 4 more gets us up to 40 and keeps that train rolling. Please do consider it. LF says, hey everyone, hope you had a good day. Hit the likes, people. Leon says, according to Fightful, and also apparently Lucha Libre Online, more on that later, Angel Garza's contract is up in August. David Leary says, any update on NXT Europe? No. At the moment... basically, the focus on TNA and the focus on Marigold has taken the shine entirely off NXT Europe. It's kind of awkward. William Regal doesn't seem to be actually doing the job right now. He's doing another job at the same time, but you know what I mean. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue. How are you doing today? Doing well, thank you, Noob. Welcome to the show. Eric, I don't have news on Pat McAfee's schedule, sorry. Dylan says, hi everyone. Hello, Dylan. Spider-Man says, it got my attention when Solo Sikoa mentioned that the Bloodline has Cody on their rear view. Yes, long term, Cody versus Solo is on the agenda, but it will be part of a Bloodline storyline, and Cody will be very separate from it. Counterfeit says, Tom, I'm a bit worried that Bayley may get booed at Clash at the Castle against Piper. Nah. I get why you might think that, but we need to know, if she'll be our girl. Chris says, tonight on Raw, the Raw debut of Kiana James against Natalya. Natalya's always a person of face. Kiana James has done some work in the dungeon in order to make that one work. Rosar says, I feel like SmackDown's been very mid because both Bayley and Cody fill the same role as face champions. It makes the show kind of one note. What do you think? I think that really shows the importance of Logan Paul. Spider-Boss says, lack of opponents for Cody. Put Cody versus the Bloodline made Cody and his story relevant. That does very much seem to be the plan. DM says, Cody Rhodes called out Drew McIntyre and Bustin' Open. That could be a WrestleMania main event with the long history of both and how far they've come since being tag champs in 2010. Michael says, Shane McMahon, which is always a fair point. Always a fair point. It is never unfair, and it is always unfair to mention Shane McMahon. Spider-Boss excited for the Cherry Coke. Cherry Coke is over. Joey says, when do you think we'll get a Cody and Rock singles match? I don't think it'll be anytime soon. I really don't. I'd lean towards Royal Rumble time. LF says, regardless if Cody is a champion, Roman will always be the biggest star when he's around. Do we want Roman chants continue every week? Yeah, but while he's not around, Cody gets bigger and Roman does not. Now says Cherry Coke. Backwards saying Cherry Coke. A lot of love for the Cherry Coke. Dylan says, if Roman versus Cody 3 is happening, who's the heel? Cody or Roman? Because a face versus face match wouldn't work. Why not? Eric says, Tom got his Coke back. Sid says, Cherry Coke. Brad says, Cherry Coke strikes back. LFUK says, welcome back, Cherry Coke. For those new to the channel, yeah, Cherry Coke's a thing here. I don't know why. Vanilla Coke, Mustafa, no. Roger says, the legend returns, Cherry Coke. Now says, I kind of want Roman Cody 3 to happen at SummerSlam. Roman loses, so he gets officially kicked out the bloodline. Well, I mean, he's already had that loss. Robin Dave says, I made it, Tom. Welcome, mate. Chris says, good evening, Tom. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Cody's run with the title has me hooked, as it's interesting to see the list of possible contenders he could have. Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that just because he hasn't got top-level contenders, that is just going to create opportunities for people slightly lower down the card. It creates those options that he can then pick someone. And Cody does largely pick his opponents. He didn't necessarily want Logan Paul. That's not a name he picked, but AJ Styles was a name he mentioned. King Arthur says, I think Cody will lose when The Rock returns. Rickan, thank you for reminding me, has asked for more details on Jacob Fatu's debut. Jacob Fatu at the moment is working with the Performance Center. What's going on outside? Can't wait to move. Jacob Fatu is working with the Performance Center, and as part of that work, he is being prepared in the WWE style. It's little things like making sure you give a slap on your shoulder when you're about to fake out a clothesline. Stuff like that. They did this with Tama Tonga, and that's why it took so long for him to debut as well. Jacob Fatu is not ready yet. They will prepare him physically, then they will prepare him storyline. Creatively. Should I say creatively? Joey says this explains why Angel Garza is getting more TV time in a story around Andrade since his contract is up soon. True Chad Gable as well, to be fair. Mup says, I asked before, but will Uncle Howdy be a wrestler or a background puppet master character in vignettes instead? I don't see Uncle Howdy being a wrestler. And yes, I remember your comment. Apologies for not responding to it. I don't see Uncle Howdy being a wrestler primarily because that outfit's got to be hell to wrestle in. That said, The Fiend happened. Chris, happy belated birthday. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Happy 36th. I'm going to be there with you in about a month. Just about a month and 4 days. I did say month there, and I don't know why. Spider-Boss says, I think the last good storyline Gigi Dolan had was her rivalry with JC Jane after the breakup of Toxic Attraction. Since then, Gigi has struggled to get TV time at NXT until the storyline with Ariana Grace. Ishii says, hello, Tom. Hope you're okay. Doing well. Thank you, Ishii. Welcome to the show. Thank you for getting us to 40 likes, guys. Views have gone up again. You see, it's magic, absolute magic, and you guys make this happen. Erin says, any news on Jimmy Uso's return? Not at this point in time. I get asked that twice a week at this point. He is taking some time out to let the storyline build. Also, he injured. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? Doing well, thank you, Marcel. Welcome to the show. Juan says, hey Tom, according to Saraya herself, she wasn't too pleased with Mercedes Money taking a match spot this past Wednesday. More on that later. A lot of stuff not true. That's largely storyline, but we'll get to that. DM says, Bron Breakker versus Ricochet is official for Raw tonight. Yeah. Poor Ricochet. Joey says, is Dijak not being featured on TV since he hasn't signed a new deal yet, or are there no creative plans? There is a bit of both. He hasn't signed a new deal yet, for the WWE don't want to commit because he suggested he might not be doing so. LF says, any news on WWE and TNA crossover? Little bit, very soon. Zane says, will we ever get to see Nick Aldis wrestle in WWE? I'm confident, yes. Koo says, do you think Ethan Page will be a huge star in the WWE? That's kind of up to him. There's a lot of people he has to work his way through. Now, I do think he's got potential to be one of those cult of personality people like Zack Ryder was with his Internet Championship. But the WWE has to back him as well. Again, more on that later. Sean says, this is from Fightful Select. Becky Lynch didn't sign a contract with WWE, is a free agent now. This doesn't mean she's done with WWE. WWE has expressed a desire to keep negotiating with her and ultimately expect her to make a deal. Fightful source in WWE described Lynch as class in business negotiations and informed the company a while ago she was taking time off. Yep, which has of course been reported the whole way along, almost exactly as I've said it as well. Robin Dave says Roman knew it was time to drop the title to Cody. Yeah, he was more than happy with it. Spider-Boss says, I think either being on TV or not, Roman is the biggest star between him and Cody. Roman has that aura of megastar. Cody's a good babyface. Cody has star power, certainly, but I do expect that to continue to grow. 15 minutes in, we are going to get to our second piece of news now. It is about AJ Styles and does link closely to another feud with Cody Rhodes. 98 viewers, 45 likes. 5 more likes, we break that 100 viewership, which is always a huge milestone, and it's something I aim for on every stream. As long as we're getting more than 100, we are keeping that momentum going, and we are still growing. So please, if you can, remember to hit like. That'll get that going. So, AJ Styles is going up against Cody Rhodes one more time, primarily to ensure that Cody Rhodes is constantly defending that championship. There are other irons in the fire. Solo Sikoa is not believed to be ready yet, and there are other people that are lined up for championship matches that aren't necessarily in the right spot. But there's a reason that they're trying to rush things a little bit with AJ at the moment. They're trying to fit a lot of AJ Styles in as very short space of time as possible. His contract is running low, as I've mentioned previously, and also, as I've mentioned previously, AJ Styles is looking to spend some time in TNA, and the WWE see an opportunity there. TNA has directly requested from WWE the use of AJ Styles, and AJ Styles is said to be interested in this. There are other names that have been mentioned, LA Knight being one of them, the good old-fashioned Eli Drake, who might be popping up on your TNA screens at some point as well. But the WWE's intention is to build up a competitor to AEW. I'm not aware of any intention to buy TNA, or in fact any intention for finances to change hands, just to essentially fill some gaps and for TNA to become a feeder. So young talent from TNA would move into NXT, and more experienced talent from WWE would spend some time in TNA. It is very similar to the loan system used in the Premier League over here in the UK, where talented up-and-comers at big football clubs tend to spend their 18, 19, 20th birthdays down in Leagues 1 and 2 on the 3rd and 4th tier of the pyramid, just to get that experience. That's how it's going to play out, and honestly, I think AJ Styles is the perfect person to fit this role. I could see a world in which AJ Styles did win some championships back down in TNA. I also think we're lining up a possible feud for the X Division Championship between AJ Styles and Mustafa Ali. That has also been mentioned, but to my knowledge, creative plans do not necessarily have that in the line. To be clear, when I say things are being mentioned, it is mostly still being spitballed, still being brainstormed, still being storyboarded, and it is still in very early days. But the TNA deal, which was not necessarily struck, but negotiations started around WrestleMania time, as reported by myself, is definitely in a very strong place as we speak. Following on from that, because I did mention LA Knight, the build for LA Knight versus Logan Paul has now begun in earnest. I'm glad to see it's been made official. My first report on this was in September. In October, I put it on Twitter that we were going to be seeing LA Knight versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania. That did not happen. I do appreciate that Fightful actually confirmed that report in a move that I did not expect, and also said that there were plans for it in October, confirming my timeline. It's one of those very strange ones where everything I've said is being confirmed by someone who refuses to believe that I said it. All very strange. The match, as I've mentioned since, has been pushed back. They made room for Randy Orton instead. They did not know if he was going to be at WrestleMania, so Logan Paul worked with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, and instead we got LA Knight versus AJ Styles to reheat AJ Styles ready for this match with Cody Rhodes. LA Knight versus Logan Paul for SummerSlam, and a United States Championship win for LA Knight seems on the agenda now. That also then releases Logan Paul to work again with Cody Rhodes, so it looks like there will be some repeats for Cody. Sid says, will we get to see WWE wrestlers show up at TNA? I believe I've just responded to that one. Ella says, any news on when Jacob Fatu will debut? Once he's ready. They're not going to start the storylines being written until he's physically ready and prepared in the WWE style. Pete says, evening all. Welcome, Pete. How you doing, mate? Dylan says, I never thought I would say this, but I'm looking forward to Paul Heyman as a face. The story to turning face is brilliant. I'm also wondering when will Solo finally Samoan Spike Heyman. Not sure that one's going to happen, because for Samoan Spike, you need to put all your weight on Solo's arm. Heyman's a bit older now, and I'm not sure he'll be able to perform that way. DM says, I like Cody as champion, but Roman had that aura in his present. Very difficult to replace that with anyone. Sean says, Fightful also said there were no concerns giving Lynch the title for the last weeks of her contract. She was more than willing to drop the title before she left. Again, which I've been reporting at the same time. Spider-Boss says it'll be fun when Liv Morgan overtakes Judgment Day and becomes the leader of Judgment Day. We'll see how that one goes. David says, any truth to the rumours of WWE buying TNA? Nope. King Azza says, I think it will be The Rock versus Roman versus Solo at WrestleMania 41. That'd be a cluster. Joey says, Soraya's AEW run feels like a flop so far. The women's division is not particularly well used in AEW, and I get why some people will think that. I think Soraya's had some very good moments, but ultimately she hasn't necessarily been used as a wrestler. Eric says, I personally believe by the end of Clash at the Castle, Priest will be kicked out of Judgment Day. Ross says, caught up with Friday spoiler warning before tonight's good show and number of likes on that one. Thank you, Ross. We have just hit 50 likes, in fact, and that takes us up to 103 viewers. So in the first half hour, it literally just doubles the likes, which is a great thing. And it makes it very controllable, the number. Because if everyone who joins hits like, the momentum never ceases. That's a wonderful thing. So yeah, I was very happy with the number of likes on Friday spoiler warning. I think in general, while the viewership is staying roughly similar, the people that are here are more engaged, the chat rate's going up, the likes are going up, people are just more involved. And you know what? It makes for a very fun show for me as well. I'm getting lots of questions. I don't have to spend too much time scripting and repeating myself to kill time. I don't like vamping. I like having questions coming in. So thank you all of you for continuing to engage, and I apologise for the little burp there. DM says, I think it's going to be stupid to have Punk screw McIntyre. At this point, it's way too predictable. I don't think they will do that. Spider-Boss says people should pay attention. Saraya loves to troll fans on social media. Just 2 weeks ago, Saraya said she would love to wrestle Mercedes money, and that is indeed one of the plans that they've got. Sid says the YouTube stream is going perfect. Thank you, Sid. I appreciate that you keep me updated. Squid says, hey, Tom, hope you've been well. Been very well, thank you, mate. Good to see you. Spider-Boss says AJ Styles was Mr. TNA during his days on TNA. He's a legend there. Joey says Chris Bay, someone WWE are interested in. WWE not entirely. Cody Rhodes very much so. Squid says, as a maintenance supervisor, it kills me every time I see the water-stained wall should be fixed up. Black mold doesn't form. You did just miss the part where I did show my my newly repaired hole. So it's actively being worked on as we speak. It was being worked on yesterday and today, in fact. I had to work downstairs. They've patched it up. All of the roof is sorted. Next up is literally what they're doing here. So that's the next step. That will be over the next couple of days. I think they're working on that bit, which I don't show you guys. Over the next few, and I think that'll be this weekend. But while I agree with you, and certainly down the bottom there are signs of that happening, it is my landlord's job to do, and I'm moving out. Don't know if you've been here for some of those shows, Squid, but I'm leaving. I got me a big house, a nice big house. It's all mine. Spider-Man says since WWE want fighting champions, WWE should take the US title off Logan Paul soon. Sean. Christoph Gut, the wrestling informer, is a proven thief. He will likely be watching this show right now. The information he shares comes from everyone else, and he just copies and pastes it, and sometimes uses AI and takes the exact same phrases that other people use. I have reels upon reels upon reels of screenshots from this guy, which is just basically, here's the exact script from Spoiler Warning. So I've got them, and I've also got the clip from that exact show on Spoiler Warning, because when he makes a tweet, I just go to the Spoiler Warning before that tweet, and it's immediately that show. It's one of those. People just keep sharing, and yeah, sometimes he goes really well with a tweet, but people notice. He's pissing off a lot of people. So, Chris, the wrestling informer, please everyone be aware, not someone who's popular here. And I say that knowing full well he's watching, tapping, and trying desperately to act like he's important. Hi, mate. Backwards says, Cherry Coke is very hard to get where I live, so I drink Mountain Dew Code Red. Heard good things about that. Never tried it. Eric says, I feel like we could have Liv versus Rhea at 4-1. They certainly could build towards that, yes. Slovak says, if Liv loses the title at SummerSlam, what would be next for her? Back to whatever they were doing beforehand, which, to be honest, was not that much. Keenan says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well and had a great weekend. Will Cody Rhodes feud with the Wyatt 6? Welcome, Keenan. I don't necessarily know on that one. Personally, I do lean towards the Wyatt 6 popping up on SmackDown rather than Raw, but I can't sit here and say that's guaranteed. With Cody Rhodes, as I've reported earlier, if you want to pop back to the beginning of the show, he's going to be a fighting champion, and I don't see him retaining a championship where the Wyatt 6 are involved. Backwards says, do you see an Austin Theory face turn coming? They teased it on SmackDown. Not sure Austin Theory versus Cody Rhodes has been mentioned though, so not until at least we've got after that. The other Mike says, please let AJ take the title from Moose. Mupp says, is there any possible chance we could see Crazy Steve or Rosemary in WWE? Do not tempt me with this. For those not in the know, Rosemary is an amazing wrestler and character artist that is probably my favourite of TNA for sure. I never got everything going on with like Broken Matt Hardy and all that jazz. Rosemary I get. Emerald, Jimmy Uso is currently waiting for the storyline to be right for him to return, and he's also recovering from injury. He's been working a lot over the last few months, so he's been given a decent break. Eric says, is WWE interested in Ace Austin? Not to my knowledge. Razar says, why did they take Damage Control away from Bayley? A title reign feels lackluster because that was her main storyline and it wasn't fully finished. The Damage Control storyline was always ending like that. Even before they debuted 2 SummerSlams ago, the plan was always to have that as the finish. Always. RM says, hello Tom, anyone on Gable's contract situation? Negotiations ongoing, WWE remain confident. Jack says, why would they come out and promote Priest versus Jey Uso and MSG if he's supposed to lose to Drew on June 15th, unless Drew is going to lose again because of CM Punk? To make you think that Damian Priest is going to win. Vast majority of people think Damian Priest is going to lose. They've just changed the format. Wants to say, Tom, remember when TK said he'll never release people? Now that he knows he won't get a good TV deal, he'll have to. Yeah, more on that later as well. Chris says, always credit where you get your news stories from. I do find it very interesting when people come in here and ask for a source. I'm the source. I put my name and reputation against everything I report. Everything. If something I report is proven wrong, I am at fault. I am to blame. I ain't blaming other people for it. Always quote your sources. And always try and verify. Because there's a couple of things in here which people are clearly not vetting before they share. Eric says, good evening, Tom. How are you doing? Doing well, thank you, Eric. Welcome to the show. Spider-Man says, Cody facing the same people. Is that lack of opponents or lack of creative from Triple H's booking? Pardon me. It's lack of opponents because of lack of creative, because of the draft that didn't quite work in their favour. Chris says, I want Joe Hendry in WWE. Joe Hendry and R-Truth would be a pairing. Koo says, do you know what happened to the relationship between AEW and TNA? Yeah, AEW stopped being involved. Like, I'd love to go into more detail and be like, okay, this and this is what happened, and the whole breakdown of the relationship. No, just AEW just didn't use them, so they just moved on. Nat says, do you see Cody AJ2 having a stipulation? Possibly. It was a clean match first time around. I can see AJ getting a bit more grrr. Sean says, with Mercedes in AEW, Becky having a break out Becky out on break and Charlotte out injured, Bayley is the only remaining horsewoman. Yeah. And Eric decided, I'm a hiveling. Dylan says, what's the plan with Gunther? When do you see him going after a world title? Next year at the earliest. Spider-Boss says, I think Saraya's AW... In fact, to be fair, he's going after world title at SummerSlam. I see him winning one next year at the earliest, but also, wouldn't it be fun if he did? I don't know. Spider-Boss says, I think Saraya's AW run has gone downhill since she lost the women's title. Saraya's been working more as a manager for Harley Cameron and his brother, Zach. Yes, she's not primarily been used as a wrestler, and I think that might be part of the issue. Then says, do you see the Bunny, aka Ali, showing up in WWE or TNA? Not sure. Dylan says, sorry, I meant, when do you see Randy going after a world title? Oh, is that why? Right, you said Gunty meant Randy. I'm confident Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes is in the stars. I could see that being a War Games match. Not in the War Games, but at War Games. I can definitely see that being a very big draw for them. Sean says, did you see that Reggie/Scripps has gone from WWE? Yep. They brought him in to launch their TikTok, and it was a success, and now he's left. That's all it was. Erin says, almost 30 minutes in and no trolls. Yes, weird world, isn't it? We've had so many trolls recently, and I'm just very happy that we don't anymore. Watch them all come in now. Mixu says, hi Tom, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you Mixu, welcome to the show. Eric says, AW-TNA relationship should be a WTF wrestling episode. There's nothing to tell. It's genuinely a complete non-story. AEW and TNA for a while worked together and then they decided, okay, we're good now. That's it. Story told. Then he says AJ Styles pulled a 2013 Mark Henry. Yeah, he did. It was good stuff. Spider-Boss says AEW and TNA's partnership went downhill after AEW didn't promote much TNA. Also, AEW didn't acknowledge much TNA when Omega was TNA World Champion. Yeah, but the real reason is they got what they wanted and they moved on. Backwards is also noticing a lack of trolls. Eric has also said 30 minutes in and no ads. Yes, but to be fair, Eric, were you in from the very beginning? It's supposed to be that when you've been in for 30 minutes, you'll then get another ad. And in fact, I can see that those who did join us right at the beginning have just been hit with one. So I'll wait for the messages to start rolling in. There it is. Juan Orozco says ad. Mixu says, Tom, do you know if CM Punk is close to being cleared? Yeah. Since there's any news on Carmella's return to WWE, once she's fit and firing, she'll return. Juan says ad. Eric says ad. Moop says ad. David says ad. Marcel says ad now. Yep. We have worked it out now. The conservative setting means that you get an ad every 30 minutes, which a 30-second ad every 30 minutes I don't think is bad. I think we can all agree that's a good level of supporting the channel. And it also means I can avoid sharing news at the 30-minute mark. Spider-Boss says, sometimes I think the only way for Liv Morgan to be relevant is when she's women's champion. The Four Horsewomen can be relevant without being champions. Disagree. Liv Morgan's been extremely relevant since the Royal Rumble when she returned. Sean says, he said, Friday expect Becky back by Rumble. I've seen fans speculating Becky will be back at SummerSlam, except she'll be back by Survivor Series. For War Games, some expect Royal Rumble for her return. Yeah, I expect Becky back by around Royal Rumble time. Mub says, will the gobbledygooker ever return? Unfortunately, yeah. Danny says, hello Tom, hope you're well. Joining late, finish work late today. Sorry to hear it, mate, but glad you could join us. Backward says that Styles Clash to Cody off the steps of the floor looked like a nasty bump. Styles Clash is a beautiful move. Julia. And before we get to this one, we've just had the ad. That always sort of kicks a few people out. And it does sort of disrupt our 2 viewers to a like rhythm. So 59 likes, 1 more gets us to 60. Please consider doing so. Julia is expected to be fit and ready and fully recovered from her wrist injury by the time we get to the NXT Women's Championship match at NXT Heatwave. She may be patched up, I expect that to happen, but when it comes to the match, it is still very much on the agenda. When in NXT and as likely Women's Champion, she will have a short but intense run at the very top of NXT before moving swiftly on to the main roster. My expectation really is that she'll eventually be beaten by Jordynne Grace. Julia versus Bayley on the main roster has been mentioned a number of times, primarily because Julia and Bayley do know each other. Bayley has followed Julia's work for a while, as Bayley is very interested in everything happening in NXT and watches a lot of Indie Federation wrestling. She's very invested in women's wrestling in general. Pardon me. For the sake of hitting the ground running, another favourite to work with Julia quickly is, of course, Asuka, which does not surprise me and I doubt will surprise any of you. Julia will be the face of NXT, but not for long, and she will at no point come anywhere close to competing with the run that Asuka went on. Julia will have a short but intense run at the very top, and I can see her immediately winning the Women's NXT Championship and essentially kicking Roxanne Perez upwards to the main roster. Still have a few things to mention. Alexa Bliss return, the MJF fake news, the new Fightful Select strategy, which I want to talk about, very Stephanie McMahon, the fact that there was no match that was cut for Mercedes money, we're going to talk about that one, and a little bit on Tony Khan releases and free agents, but we'll continue to catch up with the chat while we do so. Sean says, do you think Liv defends at Clash at the Castle? Not sure, we'll see how that goes. Mixu says, do you consider going behind a paywall or keep doing these streams for us for free? I will not be doing paywalled news. That's not something I ever am going to do. I believe in a free press. And the fact is, because I do the news on YouTube rather than on, for example, Twitter, I get paid on YouTube. Now, eventually I'll get paid on Twitter. That's not far off. But for now, my focus is on YouTube because just by being here and ads coming through, you guys are ensuring that I do get at least something for this news. Dylan says, yes or no, Roman is obviously going to be facing Solo. At some point, do you see Roman Rock being the final story and the final thing in the Bloodline storyline? No. The Rock is not a key factor of the Bloodline storyline. He is a guest. Keenan says, hey Tom, do you think Alexa Bliss's new dark character will be behind a mask? Alexa Bliss is my very next piece of news. Stick around. Spider-Ball says it would be weird to see Roman and Cody in a tag team. Agreed. CS, you cannot join the call. It's not a call, mate. It's not a call, it's a live stream. Roger says, is WWE interested in any free agents? Yes. Rosal says, when is Asuka going to come back? Once she's fit. Spider-Ball says, SmackDown Women's Division has Bayley, Charlotte, Jade and Bianca Tiffany. Raw Women's Division doesn't have other main eventers apart from Rhea and Becky and Liv. And right now, it doesn't have Rhea or Becky. Roger says, I'd like to see Natalya showing up in TNA to face Jordan Grace. Certainly there'd be interest there. And Backward says, what's up with Omos and MVP? I swear I only seen him at the Rumble and WrestleMania Battle Royal. Yeah, you did. He's a great Khali. He just gets wheeled out to be a spectacle, which is a shame because the guy's compelling. He's an interesting fella. It's kind of disrespectful what they're doing to him. While we're seeing the Wyatt Six prepare themselves and make several hints that they'll be appearing sort of mid-June time, as I previously mentioned, so not long now, Alexa Bliss is not yet ready to return to the WWE. Instead, the Wyatt Six will be focusing on finding Nikki Cross, who went wandering one day, vanished into the ether, and now will be returning. She has been briefed, she's been scripted, she will return shortly. As regards Alexa Bliss, they are still storyboarding what her character will be, how it will engage with the Wyatt Six. There will not be a mask to my knowledge. There will not be a mask to my knowledge. Spider-Ball says, Alexa Bliss recently said on social media she hasn't returned yet because her baby had some health problems. Nope, she didn't say that. That's not something that happened. She shared the fact that her child does have a health problem. Had nothing to do with her return schedule. Not a damn thing. Okay. Luke says, is that Diet Cherry Coke? Nope, it's Cherry Coke Zero. Because sugar tax. Sugar tax. Mixu says, are you going to any wrestling events this year? Yes, but probably indie ones. I tend to go to the local shows. What can I say? I'm basic. Joey says, what do you think Dexter Loomis's new gimmick would be in the Wyatt Six? A creepy guy who follows everyone around and doesn't say anything? That's all I've really ever been able to do with him. It's awkward. I'm going to take a very strange approach to this next piece, but I'm going to talk about the MJF pantomime. For those who don't follow on Twitter, I'm essentially going to read one of my tweets out because something was shared on social media recently, and it is a graphic purportedly showing that it was reported by Sportskeeda, stating that MJF allegedly is making $15 million per year with AEW. I'm going to start by saying this is utter nonsense. Absolute garbage. Much as the rumours that Mercedes Money was making 10 to 15 million per year. Absolute nonsense. The cap for AEW talent, with one exception, is roughly 3 million. Cody Rhodes was on 3 million a year. Chris Jericho, 3 million a year. CM Punk was on 3 million a year. There is one exception. Now at this point, that limit has been broken a couple of times. Mercedes Money is getting more than 3 million a year. I believe Chris Jericho is getting more than 3 million a year. My expectation is that MJF might be getting on a par with around 3 million a year. But as again, there is one exception. Jon Moxley. In order to convince Jon Moxley to sign after he left the WWE, AEW, and in fact all of the executive vice presidents, agreed that they would go in with double their cap. They went with $6 million per year for Jon Moxley. Double what any of them were making, and in fact double what CM Punk made after he joined the company, which was way after Jon Moxley did. Later on, in fact, Jon Moxley made more money, and in fact increased that number now, primarily because he worked for several months, as reported here on the Tom Colohue networks, on a handshake deal. He wasn't under contract, but he was still working because they were basically covering for injuries to, for example, CM Punk and the loss of Cody Rhodes. Essentially, it was Jon Moxley holding the place together, and he was financially rewarded for it. He ain't making $15 million a year. MJF ain't making $15 million a year. So I'm going to go through what I posted on Twitter, so you guys have a feel of what I'm doing on Twitter as well. I've shared the graphic, and I've said, MJF is making $15 million a year from Tony Khan's AEW. That's what this graphic says. Dig into this claim even slightly, and it's immediately paper thin. And not $15 million worth of paper thin, not by a long shot. Oh, it's a thread, and it's not giving me the whole thread. Give me the whole thread. Good boy. The allegation in question is an opinion from a former WWE announcer, Jonathan Coachman. Even he hasn't even pretended to be making any factual claim. And I quote, "It's probably for 4 years, around $60 million. I know I dedicate a lot of time to don't believe everything you read. But the clickbait here is absurd. I checked Sportskeeda's social media and I can't find this graphic or this claim anywhere. Which suggests that it's not only anti-MJF clickbait. It's also anti-AEW, anti-wrestling, anti-wrestling media, anti-Jonathan Coachman, and depending on if this graphic was published and then pulled, anti-Sportskeeda. Media literacy is vitally important. Even if this information is true, stuff like this massively undermines us all. Demand better from your sources, remember when people get things wrong, and vote with your feet." I wanted to highlight that because people will make things up and claim that somebody else said it. Christoph, if some of his information was proven wrong on the Wrestling Informer, he starts blaming his sources. But that's the only time he mentions who they are, when he's blaming them. How many times did Zero News get something wrong and then say, oh, the source is bad? It wasn't me, source is bad. And here we have Sportskeeda apparently reporting on an allegation. I haven't seen that graphic on their socials. I don't think it was them that made the graphic. It is an attempt to really bring the whole thing into disrepute and hurt us all. Okay? We're better than this. We need to be better than this. Backwards says the Wyatt Six will consist of Uncle Howdy, Eric, Rowan, Braun Strowman, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross and Joe Gacy. That is not the full list of names that have been mentioned elsewhere. No Mixu. Punk was not on 4 to 5 million per year. Punk was on 3 million per year. And Moxley was not on 4 to 5 million per year. He was on 6, and then that increased. Spider-Boss says it always caught my attention that women have been more successful with the Money in the Bank cash-in. I remember only Big E and Damian Priest has been the only successful cash-in from the men's division in WWE, and also all the others. Mixu says it might be 15 million all. It isn't. Backwards says those people who come with rumours like that just seek negative attention. Yeah, and because they get it, Twitter thinks, oh, people really engage with this person. I'll share all of their content from now on. And they start making a whole lot of money. I get you, Luke. I don't blame you for that one. I agree. One says, speaking of Coachman, he also said Mercedes money was so hard to work with. Spider-Boss says, I remember people on social media were saying Mercedes money didn't return to WWE because of money, which was always wrong. Also saying people who claim Mercedes is the highest paid woman in wrestling today. Clickbait should stop. It doesn't help anybody. Speaking of Mercedes money, there are reports going round that a match between Saraya and Maria May was pulled because of Mercedes money. This did not happen. This outright flat did not happen. Dave Meltzer reported this. It is categorically incorrect. I've chased it, and it's been very clearly rebuked. Mercedes money is working to get more women's matches onto AEW programming, not less. She wants to work with Saraya and wants to get that match going, so she wants Saraya to get airtime. It is a ridiculous claim to make. Before I go on to Tony Khan and the releases that are happening, I wanted to discuss briefly something that I'm noticing in wrestling media at the moment, and that is a new strategy for Fightful Select, the Fightful paywall. You will notice first and foremost, you're not seeing the name Sean Ross Sapp as much anymore. In fact, when it comes to Fightful Select, you're hearing a lot more from their NXT guy, whose name escapes me right now. Please forgive me, I genuinely have brain damage. In addition to that, we're also seeing right now a lot of Fightful Select and someone else report. Fightful Select and Viper Reports report. Fightful Select and Lucha Libre Online report. Thank you, Joey. In reality, what they're saying is someone else started this, we added a little more, so we're giving both of us credit, and then they're guaranteeing retweets by other media outlets. For example, they could say, just throwing this out there, when it comes to the Logan Paul and LA Knight match, Fightful Select and Tom Colohue reports. But I wouldn't retweet them, so why would they? It is a method similar to Stephanie McMahon. Philanthropy is a new marketing. It is a way to look like they're giving back. And it is a way to keep the name Sean Ross Sapp out of the headlines. It may be, and I don't know if this is the case, it's a speculation on my part, that he started to piss off too many people. He had a lot of people blocked, which is his prerogative, absolutely. But I've been on the receiving end of his fan club going nuts, doxing, throwing death threats. Yeah, great fun. Great fun. So maybe, putting him in the background a little bit is a good idea. Or maybe he's gone part-time and his job is done. Who knows? It doesn't really matter as to the why, it matters to the what. This is a different format for Fightful Select. And I do think it's a sign of where things are going. One, you're going to have to pay for your news. And two, they're going to make sure everyone else retweets them when they're confirming other people's reports. They will go in and say, Lucha Libre Online reported this, we get to confirm it. And Lucha Libre Online have to retweet them. That is how you get a monopoly. That's all it is. Zane says, all of this is adding to the Roman Reigns babyface return. This is a signal for help from Paul Heyman to Kevin Owens without flat out saying, that was great TV. Joey said if Chad Gable wins the IC title, do you think it will happen at Money in the Bank since it's in Toronto? Maybe, not sure. Spider-Boss says Saraya vs. Maria May is announced for this week's AEW Dynamite. What is Meltzer smoking? Yeah, apparently it was accidentally reported for last week's. It was falsely reported, accidentally. It was corrected, but Dave Meltzer's Dave Meltzer. So someone had to be blamed. Dylan says, I don't get it. Why do so many reporters hate how you get things right? Even steal your reports, like why do they have to have such a hatred for you? I honestly don't know. I wanted to work with a lot of these people, and they made it very clear that that was not going to be happening. It is Spider-Boss. I've done some work with them before. They're a good group. Joey says, weird how SRS credits Viper, who doesn't show their name or face, but won't credit you with anything when you've been doing this for years. In fact, quite recently, he accused me of guessing. If he accuses me of guessing and getting information right by guessing 15 times in a month, how the fuck is that still guessing? You know? People keep telling you I've been reporting this stuff. People keep proving to you that I've been reporting this stuff. And your response is always the same. No, he isn't. He doesn't know anything. People are not stupid. It just... The level of insult that he often throws at people in this chat right now is ridiculous. You're not stupid. I'm not going to sit here and say, hi, I reported everything, nobody else gets anything right. It's utterly ridiculous, utter garbage. I'm proud of what we do here. I'm proud of how we report here. And I'm proud of my record. Just because other people hate me for it, oh well, I'm successful. I'm really not, but you get what I mean. Sean says another reporter we haven't heard from in a while is Boozer. Very true. David says, the Fightful crew still fight with Billy Batty on Twitter. To be fair, Billy Batty has threatened to kill me on a number of occasions, publicly. So, yeah. I keep receipts. In case I ever need money, I can always launch a lawsuit, because he literally threatened to kill me. Backward says, you're a good guesser, I guess. Well, I guess. Mixie says, you're either a god and can guess things right, or of credible sources, and Sap might be jealous. Second option is right. The big endorsements for me are people like Dan Reed over at Eve Wrestling. who I dropped into an AEW watch-along of Eve Wrestling quite recently. You guys will remember Eve Wrestling dropping in here quite a bit. Dan's a very good guy. I have a lot of time for him, a lot of respect for him. He saw me chatting away. I just wanted to drop into it, but he put me over, and I have nothing but respect for him for it. And he said, I know he's got sources, as in he knows I've got sources, because he often says stuff that's exactly the same as what people are telling me. So he, someone who manages a pro wrestling company, is being told by people in pro wrestling the same thing that I'm being told by people in pro wrestling. He's vetted me. And that is an endorsement that I value to no end. That's what I care about. That is what I care about. Also, he's generally a good guy, and he puts on a great show. So, anyone who comes out of Eve Wrestling, follow them. Spider-Ball says, SRS is such a diva. Ah, yes, as regards to the Bayley news, yes, yeah. Dylan says, to be fair, you're my go-to guy for information and sources, mainly because I don't trust any other outlet. 9 times out of 10, everything you said has come true, so I'll always stick with you. I appreciate you for that one, Dylan. Danny says, I've not been subscribed for long, but you do a grand job. Found your channel through Martin. I appreciate that. The MCFC was certainly the giveaway there, Danny, but you are, of course, very welcome to be here. You've been a very good contributor and asked quite a few good questions, and I make sure to remember that. Pardon me. Spider-Ball says, I put you over the Becky news this past weekend. Yes, you did, and I appreciate you for that. There's been quite a lot of that recently, and I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you who've been doing that recently, who've been really helping this channel grow through things like that. It's also people like Wrestling Days who's been very helpful. And, you know, that's the sort of thing that long term, you're putting meals on the table, you know? You're kind of feeding my kids sometimes. So yeah, many of you will remember that we had some rough times here. We started this during the pandemic. I did not have a good time during that pandemic. Certainly other people did have it worse. But it's not a competition, it's not a race to the bottom. Some of us had a very bad time regardless. And this channel has been very valuable to me. So I'm going to move on from what I'm talking about with Sean Ross Sapp. He does his thing. I don't agree with it. Don't like him. Also, can separate and say Fightful... I don't agree with paywalls, but Fightful in general do a very good job. I can separate that. So I'm going to move on from that because I would prefer to be positive about what we're doing than negative about what someone else is doing. I will keep an eye on it because it's the industry that I love, but I like to just focus on the fact that you guys have given me a wonderful place here, and I absolutely love you all for it. Dan, hello. Have you just come in, or have you been lurking in the background and you heard your name? Evening. Damon says, Brian Cage said he has 6 more years left on his AEW contract via WrestleZone. FDR, thank you very much for renewing your channel membership for a 19th month. Some of you have been here a very long time. Michael says, you've always been my go-to guy. In fact, you are the record holder for the length of subscription. And I just want to repeat my thanks to you for that. It was very much the Mercedes money news that drew your attention. And I appreciate you joining me on this journey. I feel very lucky to have reported so much news in that area and to have been proven right so many times on it. FDR says, been a while, Tom. Hope you're doing good. Welcome, FDR. Doing very well, in fact. Bought a new house. Never thought I'd be able to say I bought a house. I do not come from a very good background. Then he says, we love Adam Copeland, one of my personal all-time favourites. He broke his leg on the top of a steel cage at 50 years old. Tony Khan described AEW as the safest place to work. To be clear, Adam Copeland made his choice. Spider-Boss says, do you see Mercedes Money winning the NJPW Strong Women's Championship since the Strong Women's title was made for Mercedes Money? Yes and no. I think she will, and I think that's part of the deal, but I think they're waiting to actually make it happen. Mixie says, do you watch football? If so, who are you rooting for? Typically, I follow Liverpool. I just enjoy the way they play football. Hopefully, I'll still enjoy that under the new guy. I, for a long time, believed that Jurgen Klopp was CGI, because I just wouldn't want... That's just incredible. Jack says, what do you think about Ango? Is he credible? I've never known Ango to report news. Sean says, when they show the highlights of the cage match last week, do you think WWE will show Becky or edit her out? They'll show Becky. Why wouldn't they show her? Dylan says, we're nearly to the end. There has not been a single troll. Not been a single troll. Dan says, I've actually just come in, literally, Dan, a minute before you popped up and said evening. I was saying a thank you to you. Do you remember when I joined in that AEW watch along? And I just wanted to watch the show and support. I wasn't even watching the AEW show, but hadn't gone to bed yet. And I just wanted to go in, hit like, and get the chat rate going a little bit, because I know how this works and I want to help. Yes, to you. And if you remember what you said, and this is an incredibly strong endorsement, because I was talking about sourcing and credibility, you said that the information that I have often directly parallels information that you get, which is just an incredibly effective endorsement. So I just want to say thank you. I have notifications on, but I'm working on this retirement video for Jetta and Charlie and lost track of time. Deadline tomorrow is Japanese land Wednesday morning. I didn't know you did all the editing, mate. You are a machine. Also, thank you. Yes, I will actually. I'll reach out to you and have a chat about this and sort of celebrate myself a little bit, if that's okay. We can bro it, if that's all right, because I'm very proud of myself and you're a good guy to talk to. You got a good view of the world. John says, Michael was the reason I found you, Tom, and also your news about Alexa drew me in. Fair, I do remember the day you came in because of that as well. Spider-Boss says, I would love to see Roxanne Perez on SmackDown with Bayley. John says, reason I asked that, Tom, because when it's shown Roxanne defeating Mandy, Mandy is never shown. Mandy Rose was fired. Last piece of news as regards AEW and releases. There are more releases incoming. Most of them will be quiet. Tony Khan, while unfortunately his Twitter antics has earned him a bit of a reputation, he does have an incredible amount of respect from the AEW locker room, which does mean that when he quietly allows contracts to expire, instead of just releasing or firing people, typically the wrestlers will sort of meet him in the middle and they'll keep it quiet until they pop up somewhere else. That's a way of protecting him, which is why we don't hear a lot of these releases until they pop up somewhere else. Unless it does come out via a paywall somewhere, a PWInsider, a Fightful, one of them. With this in mind, there are still releases that we haven't heard about. That's okay. But the promoters will, of course, have heard about them. The direct question's been asked about Ricky Starks. Pardon me. Tony Khan wants Ricky Starks to sign a new AEW deal. But right now, he's not able to commit to pushing Ricky Starks because Ricky Starks doesn't seem to want to sign a new deal. Sources close to Tony Khan indicate he doesn't believe that Ricky Starks wants to be there. And if someone doesn't want to be there, Tony Khan will make nice in interviews, but he also won't be going chasing you trying to make you stay. AEW is still cutting costs, particularly with the TV deals that are on offer. AEW has never been profitable. We've done the AEW breakdown of finances here. So you can look into that if you'd like more information. But AEW has never been profitable. That simply isn't something that's happened. So they would need to cut quite a few more costs. They have let go of a few people that's made them an increase in money. Cody Rhodes leaving, CM Punk leaving, but the arrival of Mercedes Money, the arrival of, the renewal of the contract for John Moxley, Bryan Danielson arriving. They are spending a lot of money right now, so they do need to let some people go. They also have far too many people for the airtime they've got. So there will be a lot of people being quietly let go. Many AEW wrestlers have spoken to Tony Khan about their intentions, and directly to Tony Khan, I will say he's directly involved in this to make sure he speaks to people. I respect the approach he's taking here, or at least he's reportedly taking, to ensure that if people do want to leave, he won't stand in their way, but he also won't be putting them on TV. I don't think that's unfair. I think that's the right approach to take. But it also means he doesn't have to fire people because people want to leave anyway. When it comes to the long-term intentions, he wants AEW to be profitable. I suspect after the next TV deal comes through, they still won't quite be profitable, but they will be a lot closer than they were. Expect more people, by the way, from AEW popping up in TNA and in NXT. In fact, just as a throwaway comment there, I kind of expect Ethan Page to briefly spend some time in TNA as well. Told you there'd be more on Ethan Page. I told you. Where were we? Spiderball says Vic Joseph on NXT almost mentioned AEW on NXT when Ethan Page made his NXT debut last week. To be fair, if they want to mention AEW, they're absolutely allowed to. Two Super says, hey Tom, I think AEW will have profits in 5 more years, but Tony will definitely throw the checkbook at Ricochet, I feel like. To be clear, they still have many years before they'll really need to worry too much about balancing the books, and they are moving in the right direction. I don't think enough is being made of the fact that AEW, while it certainly has its moments, AEW is in a stronger position than it seems when you look on the Twitter feed. They're not doing a bad job. They're just not competing with WWE. Sean says, Matt Cardona was asked recently if he wants Becky or Chad in GCW. He said, hell yeah, I'd love to have them, but knows GCW couldn't afford them. They would have to lower their stock. He also personally invited Becky to the show yesterday. She may attend. Spiderball says, apart from a storyline with Dominic, what is next for Liv's title reign heading to Clash at the Castle would be different opponents. And Two Super says, Sammy Guevara to NXT? Gonna go with no. Mixu says, go to bed, gotta wake up in 4 hours to work. See you next time. Sorry if I missed you there, Mixu. Thank you very much for joining us. Zane says, AEW Fight Forever is free on PS5, PS Plus tomorrow. Yes, it is. That will bring it to a new audience, so that is a good thing. Danny says, was surprised Roxanne never got drafted to Raw SmackDown, but Kiana James did. Only a matter of time. And one says, a free agent still interested in AEW though, even though it's not as hot. Yeah. AEW is still considered a worthwhile investment. It's just not considered a competitor. That's from people that I've spoken to. There were people, example Maria May, who I was reporting on going to AEW a while back, who was always interested in AEW. In fact, I can state that she did have a tryout as well as a couple of other wrestlers before the pandemic hit and was intending to join a long time before she actually did. And Dylan says, do you see MJF ever going to WWE? Personally, no. I mentioned this on Friday's show. I think he'd rather be the absolute top of a good company than somewhere in the middle of a great company. Spider-Man says, too many suspensions during his AEW run. Could we consider Sammy Guevara a flight risk? No, not really. More of a kick-out risk than a flight risk. And I don't want to say that because it sounds very, hashtag wrestling. Hashtag insider. Hashtag, yeah, boy. I'm sorry. So sorry. Yesterday, I'm a fan of Timeless Tony Storm. First time I saw Tony Storm in action was against Mickie James in Blackpool. I believe she was 18 at the time, and she didn't quite work out how to be a heel, so she was very basic. Lots of, you all shake hands of, no, we're not. The entire entrance. But the wrestling was good, and I'm very glad she's found her groove. Yes, Danny, injured at the moment. Also, very suspended. We're going to wrap it up there. We've been live for just over an hour. What did we peak at today? 110 viewers, so we did break that 100. 68 likes, 2 more to 70. We're still rolling in a pretty good spot there. We will be live again come Friday, and I have some big plans to tell you all about once I move into the new house and I can show you what's initially going to be a plain white wall, but it's not going to have that. It's not going to have that. That's there because I'm leaving. I cannot, Steve. No entiende. I'll be wrapping up there. Thank you very much for joining me, everyone. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all. Thank you for subscribing, Airwolf. Appreciate you very soon.